Good day, everyone. It is your host, Crypto Glenn. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with me, and I appreciate it. We've got a lot to discuss today, so we're going to get right into it. Going over the headlines, Stephen Mnuchin tweeted at 10:03 this morning, productive G7 call this morning. We discuss effective actions in response to COVID-19, strategies to achieve a robust economy, and cryptocurrencies. Markets now forget Bitcoin. These cryptocurrencies are surging even more. That's on CNN Business. And CNBC mentions Ethereum and XRP by name in title that shouts Ether, XRP, and other altcoins rally as Bitcoin heads for all-time high. This one back in November. But that shouldn't take away the magnitude of the importance of that article, as Bitcoin, as of 17 hours ago, has been reported as the 7th largest currency in the world. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So again, this morning, Stephen Mnuchin tweeted on Twitter, of course. They had a productive G7 call this morning where a slur of things were talked about. And I guess if you're watching this video, if you have subscribed to this channel, the thing that is most important to you is the fact that G7 countries are now talking about cryptocurrencies. The topic of what was talked about cryptocurrency is unknown at this time, but if I had to guess, it was probably along the lines of how do we usher this in more streamlined, how do we regulate, how do we make sure that we are not left behind. And well, if you have been an early adopter of crypto, I think the last thing on your mind is actually being left behind. In fact, what you've been doing in some of these quiet times as Bitcoin has been consolidating and trading sideways, small dip right there, but consolidating sideways, is probably buying more. Same thing can be said for XRP, same thing can be said for Ethereum, same thing can be said for Litecoin and Stellar and Cardano, if you like it, of course. VeChain, I know there's a lot of you out there that like VeChain. Okay, so I mean, originally when I saw this, I said to myself, G7, that's good. I think there's a G8, there's a G7. And the members of the G7, I believe, are the United States, Japan, Germany, the UK, France, Canada, Italy. I think that's everybody. So when I saw this, I said, these are pretty much major economic players in one fashion or another. They're definitely more. Every single one of these members on here is current in terms of their economic development. None of these are really emerging markets. Some of these are really third world countries of the sort. But when I saw that, G7 members are talking about this, I said, I've heard of G7, the G7, I've heard of the G8, but, what exactly do these guys do? What's the mission? So I did what anybody in my situation would do, and I took to Twitter. And according to Twitter, the major purpose of the G7 is to discuss and sometimes act in concert to help resolve global problems with special focus on economic issues. Since its inception almost 40 years ago, the group has discussed financial crisis, monetary systems, and major world crises such as a shortage of oil. I think we can do a little bit better than that. We really want to know what it is these guys do, so let's find out. So again, we're looking here on time, and again, it kind of says the same thing as to why the G7 was, created. But again, if you're a follower of this channel, if you're a subscriber to this channel, the thing that you're more concerned with is cryptocurrency. So if these guys, some of the bigger economies on the planet, are talking about cryptocurrencies, we want to know exactly what it is that they had to say. We go down here and we see that the G7 actually had a strong influence and a strong presence during the OPEC oil embargo. Canada joined the following year. Russia eventually joined in 1998. Since then, Russia is actually not a part of the G7 anymore. I just learned that while going over who is still currently in the G7. I'm not sure as to why they exiled them, but yeah, Russia's not exactly in the G7 anymore. So is my guess as good as yours that they got together to discuss exactly, again, how are they not going to be left behind? What can they do to make sure that their standards are up to date with some of the other standards that countries that have been a bit more progressive in preparing for cryptocurrency? So it looks like these are, the leaders of these countries, or the representatives that the leaders of these countries talk to frequently. And they're going to be trying to make sure that they have all their ducks in a row to make sure that they are ready for when the crypto boom officially happens. This is big news. I can look back in 2017. I can remember to a time when, nobody was really talking about cryptocurrency. We definitely weren't being mentioned in G7 and G8 rooms of leaders who represent these countries. So it's definitely good to know that we are definitely the subject of conversation here. CNBC, November 23rd, Ether and XRP, other altcoins rally as Bitcoin heads for all-time highs. Guys, if you've been paying attention to this channel, if you've been following along for any elongated period of time, you know where we're currently at in this market. This is definitely the beginning stages of a bull cycle. So I don't think this really took anybody by surprise, this headline being released on November 23rd. But what it does tell us is it just kind of confirms what we already know. We got in early. We're getting ready to ride this wave. And as more participants come in, like the micro strategies, like the BlackRocks, like the Squares, like the PayPals, we're going to continue to have our investments pushed up, and that's what's important. That's one of the benefits of being an early adopter. So again, if you are an early adopter, pat yourself on the back. Okay. Just goes on to talk about here how Ether was up last trading around 8% in the last 24 hours of 595. Currently it's around this price. We have touched 600 or so a few times. Currently we're just shy of being in that $600 range, but I'm not really too worried about it because I think that 600 where we're at right now is a little bit of a strong place for support. I mean, really, when you go back and look at it, we really haven't seen this turbulence since June 2018 or so. So that's a good sign. But more importantly, you know, the fact that CNN, another major news outlet, you see Brad Garlinghouse here. I'm assuming this is an interview that was taken maybe a little while ago, where more cryptocurrencies are actually being mentioned by name. Let's see if we can actually find some of those. So here we have XRP that's actually been brought up and it's mentioned 5 times in this article. It just goes on to say that the dramatic rise in Bitcoin may seem overly speculative. Again, folks, we in this space, we know it's not speculative. We're paying attention to the fundamentals as much as we are the technical analysis, and it's definitely not speculative. We know that there's major players that are getting in, and we know it's coming, and we know it's not speculative. We know it's not conjecture. We know it's not hearsay. We know everything that we've been talking about is absolutely fact. While Bitcoin has soared 15% in the past week to hit all-time highs, just under 20,000, Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency after Bitcoin, is up more than 20%. Not to be outdone, XRP, the third largest, has surged nearly 25%. I think in the last month alone, it's up some 100%. We can actually look at that. Matter of fact, why don't we go ahead and take a look at that? Just going to zoom in here. Yeah, so if we're looking at this, we're about 153%, but I think I may be over the day or the month mark. Three bars, 92 days. There we go. 30 days, 177%. From this guy to where we're at right there. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So, you know, don't let anybody tell you that it's conjecture, that it's hearsay. We know good and well what's going on in the crypto space. We were early. We kind of called these things happening back in 2017, and now it's time for us to reap our rewards. So, again, kudos to everybody who's been holding and just waiting out for this long. Polkadot, Cardano, and Stellar, which are among the top dozen biggest cryptocurrencies, have each enjoyed larger gains too. So again, in the beginning cycle of a bear or a bull market here, and there's probably going to be more price appreciation to come. Part of what's going on is simple math. Smaller coins have bigger percentages to move up and down. We've been saying that. So again, when you have Bitcoin moves up, the altcoins, they tend to move up higher, but when Bitcoin moves down, it moves down to a lesser degree than altcoins. I mean, this isn't anything new here. What I will say is super exciting is that there have been talks about the NASDAQ, or not the NASDAQ, but the S&P and Dow Jones are going to launch indices that are related to the cryptocurrencies. And basically what they're going to do is it's almost going to be like listing the top 50 cryptocurrencies by trading volume. So when I look at articles like this, and you guys are going to read it, this is on money.usnews.com. When I look at articles like this, in conjunction with what we're seeing here, the only thing this signifies to me is that this is opening up more people who haven't quite heard of cryptocurrency, let alone Bitcoin and XRP and Ethereum, and it's opening up more people to exposure to get into the crypto market. And when people see what Bitcoin has done, what people are seeing what Ethereum and XRP and all these other cryptocurrencies have done comparative to what their traditional stocks have done, more people are going to come into the crypto space. So again, everybody just sit tight, grab that 10 millimeter wrench, and make sure you've got another seatbelt in your rocket ship, because you're going to need it to to withstand the G's. Okay. Other captivating, exciting news. Bitcoin is now the 7th largest currency in the world. I remember talking about this a few videos ago, just mentioning that, hey, once Bitcoin actually reaches a price of X, anywhere from that $20,000, I think that's where it's going to get real for a lot of people, because that's when Bitcoin showed up on many people's radar at first. But then when Bitcoin crosses over to $50,000, that's where it's going to get really real for a whole lot of people. And I think at that point, you'll have over $1 trillion market cap. And it will have taken over, I know for certain, the ruble from India, the Japanese yen, and a few other world currencies. Bitcoin is an asset with the highest return on investment when stacked against gold, U.S. real estate. Someone showed this to Peter Schiff. This guy, every day he gets on Twitter, starts talking recklessly about Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is outperforming every other asset for the last 10 years. Goes on to say that's outperforming real estate, U.S. stock, rising currency, and oil. I think if you've been involved with cryptocurrency for any elongated period of time, none of this is new to you. You understand what this represents. You understand why it was a good investment for you to have inside of your portfolio. So everybody knew that Bitcoin was a great investment, a great alternative investment, but few people actually know that Bitcoin is now the 7th largest currency in the world. And that's because a lot of times we just don't think about how big currencies are. I know people in the United States, they tend to view everything as being measured in dollars. People who are in different countries like, the European Union, they tend to look at things as being based in the euro, and as they should, because it's kind of where they reside. But when you look at everything on a macro level, Bitcoin is slowly moving up the charts and absorbing everything, and it's only going to get bigger, and it's only going to continue to dethrone traditional currencies of countries all over the world. According to market capitalization data from CoinMarketCap, Bitcoin is 7 per half of India's market capitalization. Is ranked, when Bitcoin's market capitalization doubles, it will surpass the market capitalization of the Indian rupee and become number 4. It exceeds $1 trillion, equivalent to the market capitalization of the Japanese yen. That's kind of just what I was mentioning to you folks just a moment ago. So good things on the horizon for Bitcoin. I encourage everyone just to be mindful of where you're putting your money. I heard a lot of projects that are coming online, and I know every time we get into a bull market condition, everybody's excited to launch new projects. Keep in mind that the majority of these projects are nothing more than just cash grabs. Be mindful of where you are putting your money. Okay. Going back to what we were talking about here a moment ago about the S&P Dow Jones indices to launch cryptocurrencies indexes in 2021. Basically just goes on to say that the S&P's clients will be able to work with the index provider to create customized indices and other benchmarking tools on cryptocurrencies. S&P and Luca said in a joint statement. S&P and Luca help more reliable pricing data will make it easier for investors to access the new asset class and reduce some of the risk of the volatile and speculative market. So early on, at least when I got involved with crypto, it wasn't uncommon for you to buy one cryptocurrency on one exchange and it be a totally different price on another exchange. And people who understood this opportunity, being what it was called arbitrage, some folks made a lot of money if you had enough money to get started. What the S&P and the Dow Jones are looking to do here is just create more reliable pricing metric to actually bring stability to the pricing. So all this means is this is one more layer of the infrastructure that's being built to give cryptocurrencies additional legitimacy in terms of legacy investors and legacy investing. So this is something that I'm definitely excited for. Just clear, broad pricing all across the board. What else isn't being talked about in this regard, what this also allows to happen is it's not far-fetched. It's not out of the realm of possibilities to think that one day, assets are going to be tokenized and put on the blockchain. You're going to be able to trade them 24/7 as you can trade most cryptocurrencies. What this is going to act to do is it's going to prevent any of that pricing arbitrage from taking place. So if you have a building that is put on a blockchain, you'll be able to buy it in one exchange and it's going to be the same price across multiple exchanges. If that set of infrastructure didn't exist, more legacy investments and legacy investors would not feel comfortable trading assets on the blockchain. So everything's got to be completely the same across the board to bring peace of mind to everyone who's just kind of getting their initial exposure to this space. So great things on the horizon for Bitcoin. There's also a significant amount of buying up of Bitcoin that's taking place. Having a little bit of trouble finding, but I believe it's either Grayscale or MicroStrategy, and they just bought all of the available. So I believe there's something like 9,000 Bitcoin that are produced during the day. I need to go back and look at that. But if there's 9,000 Bitcoin that are being produced a day, I believe it was Grayscale or another large fund has gone in and bought all of the available Bitcoin for a specific day. What's happening is they're probably going to start going directly to the miners and working out deals to buy Bitcoin. And when that happens, there's going to be a tremendous amount of supply shock that's going to happen. I think we're already in the beginning stages of it, as, again, if there's 9,000 Bitcoin that are being produced and this trust has already bought up that 9,000 for the day, that's not even to say how much Bitcoin they bought today or how much they'll buy tomorrow, but they're already buying up the allocated amount of Bitcoin that's being produced in a day. There's going to be a supply shock that is going to happen. And when it does, people on exchanges, it won't be like buying whole Bitcoins. People will be trying to accumulate Satoshis. So again, please be very, very mindful of where you are, what projects you're buying. And before you move on to buying other projects, I would strongly consider making sure you have the amount of Bitcoin that you're comfortable holding forever, should you decide to hold on to it for that long. And if you haven't reached that number yet, every dollar that you put into the crypto space needs to be put into Bitcoin until you achieve that number that only you are comfortable with. Bitcoin, again, the number 7 currency in all of the world. This is only going to keep getting bigger. A supply shock is going to come, and when it does, I don't want anyone who listens to this channel to be taken aback. There's big news on the precipice for XRP. We're going to be looking at more crypto regulation in the next 6 to 8 weeks, if it even takes that long. Do not get comfortable now. Now is the time to dig deep. I can't tell you what to do with your money. I'm not a financial advisor, but me, you hear that? That's the sound of me buying more crypto, because I know it's coming. That's all I have for you guys in this video. I want to say again, thank you to all of the new subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has joined, who has followed me on Twitter. I appreciate you guys. None of this happens without you. If you liked the video, please slap that like button. Question, comment, or concern, leave in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.